Hi guys, welcome back. So in my last video, I talked to you about solving problems, and I taught you the problem solving steps. So first, say the problem. Second, think of solutions. Third, explore consequences. So just think about what could happen if you pick that solution. And then fourth, pick the solution. So today, I'm going to talk to you about a different type of problem. This problem is called conflict. And I bet you've had some conflicts before. Conflict is just a problem between people. And you know what? Everyone in the whole world has to deal with conflicts sometimes. And also, conflicts aren't just going to happen with maybe someone you don't get along with. Conflicts can happen with your family. Conflicts can even happen with your best friend. That's just how conflicts are. We all have to deal with conflicts sometimes. But even though we all have to deal with conflicts, we also all have the power to resolve the conflict in a peaceful way inside of us. Today, I'm going to read you this story called Six Crows. It's a great story about a conflict that got bigger and bigger and bigger, but then was solved in a peaceful way. I hope that you really enjoy it.
Six Crows by Leo Lionni. In a peaceful valley at the foot of the Belvedere Hills, a farmer cultivated a field of wheat. The soil was fertile, and the spring rains had been gentle. Life would have been good and happy were it not for six noisy crows who nested in a tree nearby. Just when the wheat was about to ripen, the crows descended upon the field and pecked away at the tender grains. The farmer tried to chase the crows from the field, but no sooner had he returned to his hut than they were back. In desperation, he built a scarecrow. When the crows saw it standing in the wheat, waving a big stick, they were frightened. They huddled in their tree and wondered what to do. "We must scare that thing away," they said. "But how?" "Let's set the field on fire!" shouted a crow. "But that would be the end of our wheat," the others said. There were many proposals. At last they agreed to make a ferocious kite. They gathered bark and dry leaves and made a fierce and very ugly bird. The next morning they flew the kite over the field. The scarecrow didn't budge, but the farmer was very frightened. He ran to his hut and bolted the door tight. "I must build a scarier scarecrow," he said. Soon, a giant figure brandishing two swords stood in the wheat field. Its angry mouth seemed to grunt. "That should do it," said the farmer. But when the crows saw the new menace, they gathered more bark and more leaves and built an even larger and more ferocious kite. They flew it over the field, back and forth. The farmer was so scared that he didn't dare leave his hut. From her nest in an old oak tree, an owl had been watching the goings-on. She shook her head. "I don't know who is sillier, the farmer or the crows," she thought. When she noticed that the wheat was wilting from neglect, she decided to talk to the farmer. "Why don't you make peace, you and the crows?" she said. "It's too late now," said the farmer angrily. "It's never too late to talk things over," said the owl. Then she went to see the crows. "What can we do now?" asked the crows, dismayed when they heard that the wheat crop was in danger. "Go and talk things over," said the owl. "Words can do magic." The crows and the farmer agreed to meet near the owl's nest. While the owl looked on, they talked and talked, first in anger, then more reasonably, finally like old friends. "I must confess that I missed your happy cackling," said the farmer. "And we missed your wheat," said the crows. Soon they were laughing together. "We must thank the owl," said the farmer. "But where is she?" Her nest was empty. They looked all over. They went to the field, There stood the giant scarecrow, but something was different. The nasty grin had turned into a happy smile. The owl was perched on the giant's arm. "What happened?" they asked. "Magic," she said. The end.
So thank you for reading this great conflict resolution book with me called Six Crows. So earlier I mentioned how conflict is a normal part of life. It happens to everyone, and honestly, it happens a lot. But here's the thing about conflict. If we don't use a peaceful way to try to resolve or fix the conflict, normally gets a lot bigger. If instead of trying to peacefully resolve it, we decide to do something back at that person that made us upset, probably what will happen is then they'll do something back at us, and then we'll do something back, and then they'll do something back, and it'll go back and forth and back and forth and back and forth until we have this giant conflict on our hands, much bigger than it was originally, and it's hurting us, it's hurting them, and also it's probably hurting everything or the other people around us too. That's what conflict does. It likes to grow and it likes to affect everyone, just like in the book. So it started with that original conflict. The crows were eating the farmer's wheat, all of his wheat up. Instead of trying to peacefully resolve it with the crows, though, he decided he was going to make that big scary scarecrow. Instead of trying to peacefully resolve it, the crows made that big scary bird. And then the farmer made a bigger and scarier scarecrow. And then they made a bigger and scarier bird. And went back and forth and back and forth and back and forth until they had this giant conflict, which was the wheat, which is food, was actually starting to die. That hurt the crows because they wanted to eat the wheat. That hurt the farmer because he probably also wanted to eat the wheat, and maybe he sells the wheat. And I bet it probably hurt the people in the village too, who might want to buy that wheat for food. So see, it started with that small conflict, and it turned huge until it was affecting everyone. That's what conflict likes to do. But just like the owl said, we can all do something about it. We can peacefully resolve conflicts. I love the way that the owl phrased it. When the crow said, "What can we do? How can we stop this conflict? It's so big already. What on earth? What can we do?" The owl said, "Go and talk things over. Words can do magic." She is right. Talking about the conflict is one of the best ways to fix it. So here's what you do. When you're having a conflict, go to that person and then respectfully, that's really important, using a respectful voice, say how you feel. Say how it made you feel when that conflict first started. What happened to make you upset? And then, this is really important too, listen to them. They also have feelings. Maybe they also were hurt by something. Then once you guys are listening to each other and talking to each other, together you guys can come up with a solution or plan to fix that problem. Simple as that, just talking and listening to each other. I think this is a great book because it shows how conflict can get bigger, but it also shows us that we can take care of that conflict. You know what? Words are a powerful thing, and if we choose to use our words, we have the power to be peaceful. I hope this really helped you, and I hope that next time you're having a conflict, instead of doing something back, you stop, and you use those words, and you resolve the conflict in a peaceful way. I know you can do it. Bye, guys.